Did you know that in 1518 people in Strasbourg literally danced themselves to death? It sounds like fiction, but it's a real documented event. History isn't just kings and wars, it's full of bizarre, unsettling stories that are stranger than any horror movie. Today, we're diving into the dark side of the past. 7 creepy facts that history tried to bury. These are the stories that make you question everything you thought you knew about the world. If you love the strange and mysterious, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Our first story, Strasbourg, France, 1518. It began with one woman, Frau Trophea, who stepped into the street and started dancing. No music, no festival, just an uncontrollable urge. She danced for hours, collapsed, then got up and danced again. Soon dozens joined her, their faces twisted in pain and fear. City officials were baffled, doctors blamed hot blood, and bizarrely encouraged more dancing, hiring musicians and clearing halls. The result? Hundreds caught the mania. People danced until their feet bled, until they collapsed, and some died, up to 15 a day at the peak. The city became a dance floor of death for over a month before the plague mysteriously faded. What caused it? Theories range from mass hysteria triggered by famine and stress, to ergot poisoning, a hallucinogenic mold on rye bread, similar to LSD. Imagine an entire city, essentially on a deadly acid trip, unable to stop moving. No one knows for sure what happened, but the dancing plague remains one of history's most chilling medical mysteries. It's a reminder that sometimes the strangest horrors are the ones that really happened. The event is still studied today, baffling scientists and historians alike. Was it psychological, biological, or something else entirely? The truth may never be known, but the story endures as a warning of how fragile our minds and bodies can be. The dancing plague is proof that history can be far weirder and more terrifying than fiction. It's a story that sticks with you long after you hear it, and it's just the beginning. The past is full of mysteries that defy explanation. Sometimes reality is the scariest story of all. So what would you do if your whole city started dancing to death? Would you join in or run for your life? Either way, you'd never forget it. Let's move on to the next unsettling chapter. Next, let's talk about a nightmare from the sewers of Europe, the Rat King. Imagine finding a writhing mass of rats, their tails knotted and fused together by blood, dirt, and filth, trapped, alive, and desperate. These grotesque clusters were seen as omens of plague and disaster, and people often burned them on sight. Some rat kings had over 30 rats fused together, a living monument to suffering. Museums still display preserved specimens, proof that this horror wasn't just a myth. Even today, rare cases are reported, like the 2021 discovery in Estonia. The Rat King is a chilling reminder that nature can be just as disturbing as any ghost story. In the days of the Black Death, finding one was a sign of doom. The image of rats bound together, fighting for survival, is pure nightmare fuel. It's a real-life horror that still haunts the dark corners of history. Sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones that actually exist. The Rat King is proof that the past is full of grotesque surprises, and some of them are still with us. Everyone knows Mozart, but few know the mystery of his missing skull. When he died in 1791, Mozart was buried in a common grave, no headstone, no monument. Years later, a gravedigger supposedly stole his skull, passing it through collectors until it ended up in a Salzburg vault. Scientists have tried to prove it's really Mozart's, but DNA tests are inconclusive. The skull has a fracture matching an injury Mozart suffered, but there's no definitive proof. The idea that the genius behind the magic flute might have his skull locked away, unverified, is both eerie and sad. Mozart's story didn't end with his death, it became a real-life mystery. His music lives on, but his final resting place is lost to history. The skull remains a relic, a symbol of genius, loss, and the strange afterlife of fame. Even in death, Mozart's story is as haunting as his music. The mystery endures, unsolved. Sometimes the greatest minds leave behind the strangest legacies, and sometimes the truth is buried forever. Imagine being buried alive, a real fear in the 1800s, when medicine couldn't always tell life from death. Stories of people waking up in coffins, scratching at the lid, terrified the public. The solution? Safety coffins, ingenious contraptions with air tubes, bells, and even ladders, designed to save the not quite dead. Some had strings tied to the corpse's hand, so if you woke up, you could ring a bell above ground. Night watchmen were hired to listen for desperate signals from the grave. There are no confirmed rescues, but the fear was real, and justified. People went to their graves with a lifeline, hoping for one last chance. The safety coffin is a window into a time when death was uncertain, and terror was very real. It's a reminder that sometimes our greatest fears shape the world around us. The line between life and death was once terrifyingly thin. Today it's a chilling curiosity, but back then, it was a matter of life and death. The safety coffin is proof that history's horrors are sometimes born from hope and from fear. Not all horrors are supernatural. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, human zoos were popular in Europe and America. People from colonized nations were put on display in fake villages, treated as living exhibits for crowds to gawk at. Millions visited these shows, which were featured at world's fairs and major cities. One tragic case, Ota Benga, a Congolese man, was displayed in the Bronx Zoo's Monkey House in 1906. Forced to perform and caged with an orangutan, Ota Benga became a symbol of dehumanization. Outrage eventually freed him, but he never recovered and died by suicide in 1916. Human zoos were widespread, profitable, and deeply racist, a dark chapter in Western history. They remind us how easily people can be stripped of dignity for entertainment. These weren't isolated incidents, they were mainstream attractions. The legacy of human zoos is a warning about the dangers of dehumanization. History's darkest truths are often the ones we try hardest to forget, but they must be remembered. Only then can we hope not to repeat them. Mary Shelley, author of Frankenstein, lived a life as gothic as her fiction. When her husband, poet Percy Bysshe Shelley, drowned in 1822, his body was cremated on the beach. Strangely, his heart didn't burn, likely calcified from illness. A friend snatched it from the flames, but Mary insisted on keeping it. She wrapped Percy's heart in silk and kept it in her desk for 30 years, alongside his poems. After her death, it was found among her papers, a literal heart of her lost love. The woman who wrote about reanimating the dead kept her husband's heart as a secret relic. Science explains the heart's survival, but the image is haunting. Mary Shelley's life and work blurred the line between love, loss, and the macabre. Her story is a reminder that sometimes truth is stranger and sadder than fiction. The heart she kept was both a memento and a symbol of undying grief. Even the queen of Gothic horror had her own real-life morbid secret, and it's as unforgettable as her novels. Our final story, the Dyatlov Pass incident, one of the 20th century's greatest unsolved mysteries. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers vanished in Russia's Ural Mountains. Their tent was found slashed open from the inside, belongings left behind. The hikers fled barefoot into the snow. Some died of hypothermia, others suffered bizarre injuries, fractured skulls, crushed chests, and one missing her tongue and eyes. Theories abound. Avalanche, secret weapons, animal attack, even UFOs or infrasound-induced panic. None fully explain the evidence. Why did they flee in terror? What caused such violent injuries without external wounds? The case remains open, the truth buried beneath the snow. The Dyatlov Pass is a chilling reminder that some mysteries may never be solved. It's a story that haunts investigators and storytellers alike. Sometimes the scariest questions are the ones that have no answers. The Ural Mountains keep their secrets, and the world keeps wondering. The Dancing Plague, Rat Kings, Safety Coffins, and the Dyatlov Pass, these aren't fiction but real, unsettling truths. History is full of mysteries and horrors that rival any novel or film. The past is stranger and scarier than we're taught in school. These stories remind us that the world has always been a bizarre, sometimes terrifying place. Which fact creeped you out the most? Let me know in the comments. If you want more dark and fascinating stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for next week's dive into the shadows of history.